On the backdrop of Jaipur Literature Festival, I'm Aabir Lahiry for ABP Live Podcast. Joining me today in conversation is Mr. Amit Kapoor with his brand new book, The Elephant Moves.
Thank you. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here.
Same here. When you speak, I read the brief premise of the book, and when you say that we should celebrate the diversity in the India, it is filled with a lot of cultures, and that is the way forward. That's how we can carve the path to the future of India. That is for India 2047. There are different point of views of everybody. Everybody has their own ideas of India. What is yours? When you say that we should celebrate the diversity, how do you depict that?
So, this is a very important question from an economic development perspective. So when I say there is diversity or there is heterogeneity within the system or within India, the reality is that India is so spread out. Like when we really say that there are 31 states and there are union territories, there are 36 different things. And there are very interesting realities per se that actually happen there. But having said that, you have to go deeper in terms of understanding what India really is. There are 769 districts that India actually has. And if you really look at the numbers, there are some interesting numbers that actually play. The top 100 districts contribute close to about 85% of India's exports. The top 100 districts are close to about 90% of India's GDP. And then that means 669 districts are actually very different, or they perform in a different way. So their contribution to GDP is not very significant. But that does not mean that they are districts which are not, they are useless. It's not. They're not useless. They contribute in a certain way. And we do not possibly have a wherewithal right now to use their ideas or whatever. So there could be those tribal areas or whatever. But the kind of ideas that the tribal areas have, the kind of art that they actually have, we can celebrate that as well. But having said that, this whole spatial thing in itself tells me what India's growth trajectory is actually going to be. If we get sector-specific and location-specific policies, then India can do exceedingly well. Something very fascinating that has actually happened in the last 10 years is this whole idea of competitive federalism. So what is competitive federalism? That these are states which are competing between each other and they want to improve their infrastructure, improve their being, and so on and so forth. And there are many parameters on which they are looking at. There could be that export index or social progress index or multi-dimensional poverty index, and there are many of those things that the government has actually done. And each one of them give us a very unique idea as to what that location is and how we can improve. So it's a journey wherein you're competing and you're improving over a bit of time. And why this location-specific idea becomes important is that Maharashtra is effectively not competing with Tamil Nadu today. Maharashtra is competing with Vietnam, or Tamil Nadu is competing with Cambodia, or whatever. So the whole competition is at a very different scale. And you have to understand that view.
True. Glad you shared that anecdote that top 100 districts of India contribute to mota-moti 75-80%. But हम ये जो बाकी है 669, इसको कैसे empower कर सकते हैं? I would love to know your POV on that.
So there are different things that you have to understand. One is that what is the reality of those places? Agriculture, for that matter. Quite a lot of those districts are dominated by agriculture. Agriculture, inherently by nature, is not something which will contribute tremendously to GDP. So it is not that you have to transform.
But that is important.
That is a very important factor. So you might see that, there is a very small contribution to GDP by agriculture, but they become one of the most important sectors.
True.
I think what can happen is that India can improve its productivity in those locations. So what will happen is that over a period of time, the number of people involved in agriculture will reduce. That is definitely bound to happen as India grows. People will move away from agriculture, get into services, get into manufacturing or whatever. And that's a trajectory that any country actually would use. So you would see that shift that will happen. But once you look at these districts and improve agricultural productivity, that means you're talking about better income levels at these locations. So we have to find a way to improve agricultural productivity, one. The second thing is that we need to also understand that how do we create industry on top of these industries or agriculture product produced. So a very simple example.
Because demand तो उतना ही रहेगा या ज़्यादा बढ़ेगा.
बिल्कुल. But आप क्या कर सकते हैं यार कि जैसे कनक है या wheat है. मतलब Punjab is the wheat basket or Madhya Pradesh is the wheat basket or whatever. Those are the places where wheat is grown. But आप उसके ऊपर क्या क्या कर सकते हैं? But then you need policy in the state कि यार उसके ऊपर industry. तो wheat के ऊपर आप flour milling करेंगे, आप bread manufacturing है, आपका biscuit manufacturing है, आपका gluten है. There is so much that you can actually do with that product. We need to move into that direction. So the thing is that it becomes very easy for us to say that central government is not doing something or whatever. Lot of things are a state subject. So state that whole idea of competitive federalism is important, that states understand what is their reality and start focusing on it, and then start improving the thing. So जैसे पंजाब के अंदर very clearly the unfortunate reality is that it should have become the largest food processing state in the country. It has not become.
इतना बड़े स्केल पे प्रोडक्शन
बिल्कुल वो हुआ ही नहीं वहाँ पे. क्यों नहीं हुआ? क्योंकि वहाँ पे ना तो किसी को समझ में आया कि यार आपका रेगुलेटरी प्रोसेस क्या होना चाहिए, किसी ने उस चीज़ पे फोकस ही नहीं करा है. वेरी इंटरेस्टिंगली जो आपका एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस जो प्रोसेस होता है पंजाब के अंदर वो गेट्स मोर एक्सपेंसिव देन इफ इट इज गेटिंग प्रोसेस्ड इन दिल्ली, बिकॉज आपका टैक्सेशन स्ट्रक्चर फ्लॉड. सो यू नीड टू चेंज दैट.
आई गेस वो स्टेट और सेंट्रल के बीच में एक अच्छा गुड टैंडम भी होना चाहिए. आई गेस उससे चीज़ें ज़्यादा ईज आउट होंगी.
तो ये जो एस्पेक्ट है ये स्टेट और सेंटर का इशू नहीं है, ये सिर्फ स्टेट का इशू है. सिर्फ एक ही स्टेट है जो फ्लॉड, पंजाब और हरियाणा टू अ सर्टेन एक्सटेंट जो ये प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट करते हैं. अदरवाइज नहीं है. अदरवाइज तो बाकी स्टेट्स जो हैं वो इम्प्रूव कर ही रही हैं. So we get the policy right. What you need to do is understand what you call as anti-competitive market distortions.
बाप रे.
तो जो market distortions हैं और जो against competition है, जो आपकी competitiveness को reduce कर रही हैं, जो आपकी प्रारब्धता को reduce कर रही हैं.
ये जो एक्सट्रीम हुआ है एकदम अंग्रेजी से एकदम हिंदी में.
भैया मतलब आपसे मैं मतलब डर रहा हूँ ना, मतलब मेरे पहला आदमी मैंने अपने जीवन में देखा है जो मेरे से बड़ा है यार.
क्यों? अच्छा हाइट में बोल रहे ना.
हाइट और वेट
मत बोलिए. ठीक है.
तो मुझे डर लग रहा है आपसे. बट हैविंग सेड दैट, तो अगर आपने अपनी प्रतिस्पर्धा बढ़ानी है या अपना चीज करना है आगे, तो यू विल हैव टू फोकस ऑन दैट.
Makes sense. When you travel across the world, you live in US. How do you see these two economies? What kind of similarities do you see from them? Or what is their strength? What is our strength? How are we different and how are we similar?
So there are a lot of similarities and there are a lot of differences. In fact, I'll just focus on one each.
Sure.
The biggest similarity between US and India is that they also have a very similar spatial spread that India has.
Okay.
Out of 3,300 counties that the United States has, 2,600 contribute about 10% of the GDP.
Okay.
So that means most of the GDP contribution is actually happening in just about 600 districts.
Okay.
The top 6 states of US contribute close to about 70% of the GDP. That's the same thing that is happening in India. So that is how the similarity is. So a lot of people think that the economic growth is going to be same, spread out. No, it does not happen that way. So that is the similarity. The difference, that what defines US is that US has a great educational system, and especially the higher education system. So can we do that in India? We have a great set of institutions, but the problem is that those great institutions are very few.
And they just accommodate a very small, tiny population.
Exactly. So can we create those great universities out here? Can those IITs and IIMs scale up much bigger? A typical university in US will have 5,000, 10,000 students or whatever. So can we increase that size? Can we have that research happening in those universities? In fact, with the new education policy, I do see a lot of hope.
Okay.
And it would happen over a period of time because all these things take time. ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई भी चीज़ ओवरनाइट
जादू की छड़ी से कुछ नहीं होना है.
हाँ बिल्कुल नहीं. मतलब कोई भी जो चेंज है वो एक स्लो प्रोसेस होता है और वो एक्सक्रूशिएटिंग प्रोसेस होता है और चेंज पेनफुल भी होता है.
True.
So lot of us will find that thing to be painful over a period of time. अब जैसे अगर आप ग्रोथ की बात करते हैं, जस्ट एज एन एग्जांपल, हम लोग यहाँ पे सिटीज़ को बहुत ज़्यादा कंडेम करते हैं यार, सिटी में पोल्यूशन है, ट्रैफिक है. मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि इंडिया इज़ द ओनली प्लेस जहाँ ये हो रहा है. ये बाकी देशों में भी हुआ है. अगर आप देखें जो सिटीज़ थे 1920s, 1930s के अंदर यूएस के अंदर, they had a miserable quality of life.
इंडस्ट्रियल रिवोल्यूशन हो रहा था और चीज़ें चेंज हो रही थी.
इंडिया उस परिस्थिति में है. इंडिया आगे जाके उसको चेंज करेगा. इट विल इम्प्रूव द क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ. इनफैक्ट इंडिया के अंदर तो मुझे ये लगता है कि आज की तारीख में जिस स्टेज ऑफ ग्रोथ में हम हैं, हमारे यहाँ चेंज फास्टर होगा आफ्टर दिस पॉइंट इन टाइम देन व्हाट एक्चुअली हैपेंड इन यूएस, बिकॉज हमारे पास लर्निंग फ्रॉम हाइंडसाइट भी है. सो दैट चेंज विल हैपन. द ओनली थिंग इज हम लोगों को लगता है कि हम ओवरनाइट कुछ भी बदल दें. ऐसा नहीं होगा जी. इंडिया आज की तारीख में 25 साल, 30 साल, 35 साल, कोई भी कंट्री को चेंज करना एक मल्टी जनरेशनल प्रोसेस होता है. इट इज़ नॉट अ सिंगल पार्टी प्रोसेस और अ सिंगल इलेक्शन प्रोसेस. It's multi-generational, and it'll take about, possibly it's going to be my grandchildren who are going to see a great, what I call non-polluted India, very good streets or whatever. But I think that's a thing that we have to do.
Agreed.
So we have to agree to that fact. In fact, if you talk to my parents, like say, who were born in the 1940s, pre-independence, उनका एक different view है इंडिया के ऊपर, and they see कि यार बहुत change हुआ है. lot of things have changed and lot of things have remained the same.
True.
वो चीज़ मैं भी देखता हूँ.
एक ओपन एंडेड सवाल देता हूँ. If given a chance, if you have a clean canvas, आज से 24-25 साल बाद जब हम 100 साल आज़ादी के हो जाएंगे, how do you see India at 2047? How would you like to paint it and how do you see it? So अगर future देखने को मिले तो.
That's a beautiful question, yeah. Like in fact, how I see it and how I paint the picture, I think मेरा उसमें sync है एक idea के अंदर, because I see a certain trajectory that India is taking, and I see a very positive movement that will happen. A couple of changes that I see, like one is from a growth story perspective. Everything goes badly, as you know. कोई चीज़ ठीक नहीं हो रही. एक certain inertia पे India grow करेगा. When I say inertia, एक certain momentum है हमारा जिसपे वो हम grow करते रहेंगे.
5-6%, 10% जैसा मैं मानना हूँ.
अगर यार हम 7% पे भी grow कर रहे हैं तो every 7-8 years हम double
हो रहे हैं. ठीक है.
So that means कि अगर आज हम से लगभग $4 ट्रिलियन के हैं तो अगले 25 साल के अंदर मतलब we'll go from something like 8 at least 20 ट्रिलियन तो हम आराम से पहुंच गए ना. 4 के 8 के 16 और 32 ट्रिलियन तक हम पहुंच सकते हैं. So that's a very simple mathematical thing that will happen. But the most important thing, it is not about only that we are going to be a 20 trillion or a 30 trillion dollar economy. What is important is that we will also have a very high per capita income. हम लोग minimum to minimum $10,000 per capita income पे बैठेंगे आज से 25 साल बाद.
$10,000 is a significantly big change.
There is no power on earth or no force on earth which can stop this. 10,000 is just something which is going to happen. मतलब कितने हम ग्रोथ कह रहे हैं, 4 times कह रहे हैं ना आज की तारीख में. लेट्स अज्यूम कि डॉलर डेप्रिशिएट हो रहा है जी, मतलब हर साल 2-3-4% डेप्रिशिएट होता है. इवन अकोमोडेटिंग फॉर दैट फैक्ट, आप फिर भी 4 गुना मतलब आप पहुंचेंगे ही पहुंचेंगे.
For all those people who are watching this video in 2047, I hope YouTube is still intact and you are watching this interview. Do comment कि अभी कितना per capita income.
हाँ देखो, आज की तारीख में 2500 के करीब है ये. और मेरी बात मान लीजिए, तो अगर मैं उस वक्त तक जीवित रहा, वेरी गुड. अगर नहीं रहा तो पॉस्ट्यूमसली 72 रत्ना दे देना यार, क्योंकि ये मैंने कहा था.
ठीक है.
ठीक है ना.
ठीक है.
सो मतलब अब आपने छेड़ा तो मैं भी कुछ कहूँगा.
नहीं बिल्कुल नहीं, बिकॉज मुझे लगता है ऑप्टिमिज्म हमेशा अच्छी चीज है एंड एक अच्छा ऑप्टिमिज्म होना चाहिए. इट्स अ वेरी गुड नंबर टू बिलीव इन.
सो दिस इज नॉट ऑप्टिमिज्म, दिस इज वेरी सिंपल लॉजिकल मैथमेटिकल कैलकुलेशन.
आई एम नॉट अ इकोनॉमिस्ट एंड आई रियली डोंट नो हाउ टू क्रंच नंबर्स फ्रॉम द इकोनॉमिक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू.
सिंपल है ना, जैसे अगर हम कह रहे हैं आज 4 ट्रिलियन है, हम 8 ट्रिलियन होंगे जी 7 साल में. दैट मीन्स इन 2030 विल बी 7 ट्रिलियन. अगले साल में 2037 के अंदर we will be 16 trillion.
Okay.
So 2037 that means 2045 के करीब में हम 32 ट्रिलियन की बात करें. And now say कि यार वो डॉलर.
मैं उस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बिल्कुल अग्री करता हूँ, लेकिन पर कैपिटा इनकम ग्रो करना इज नॉट जस्ट लाइक इकोनॉमिक फिनोमेना की पूरी इकोनॉमी बढ़ती है तो पर कैपिटा इनकम बढ़ता है. ये भी हो सकता है कि वेल्थ एक जगह स्टैग्नेट
नहीं, बट पर कैपिटा इनकम तो रहेगी. द क्वेश्चन इज कि
कितना स्प्रेड होता है.
यहाँ पे हम 2 लोग हैं और सडनली मतलब धीरू भाई, सॉरी मुकेश अंबानी साहब आ जाएं तो हम तीनों की वेल्थ $30 बिलियन तो हो ही जाएगी पर कैपिटा के बेसिस पे. बट नाउ द क्वेश्चन इज कि व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज, जो आपका क्वेश्चन है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट कि विल इट बी इक्विटेबल और नॉट. आई थिंक इट इज नॉट ओनली अबाउट वेल्थ दैट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड. वी ऑल्सो हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ,
स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग.
Yes, or standard of living. So India will see that improvement in standard of living. If I am able to take care of basic needs, if I am able to create opportunities, then things will change. In fact, technology जब भी play होता है, then as the world is moving, you will see large enterprises getting created. In fact, हम लोगों का pet peeve है इंडिया के अंदर बोलने के लिए यार कि जो आपके enterprises हैं उनके पास बहुत ज़्यादा wealth है, बहुत accumulation हो रहा है. But very interesting fact is that wealth accumulation in India is lesser than United States for the top 10 enterprises, and lot of people don't know that. So in fact हम लोगों का pet peeve है कि हम ये बोलेंगे यार कि अंबानी साहब के पास, अडानी साहब के पास या whatever, there is a lot of accumulation of wealth. Please realize that the top 10 firms in United States have far more accumulation of wealth than India as percentage of GDP.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
On that note, I guess this is it for this episode of ABP Live Podcast. आपसे आराम से किसी दिन आराम से लंबी चर्चा करेंगे because there is a lot to learn, there is a lot to share conversation and insights about, and I guess this is not the correct podium to discuss because हमारे पास time constraint है. But it was great talking to you. All the best for your book and
Thank you.
May God bless you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kapoor.
Thank you.